All right.
Today, I'm fortunate to get to talk to a former student, Chelsie Peifer. You may remember her as Chelsie Romines, and she's a Marion High School alum. And I thank you for being here today with us, Chelsie. And if you wouldn't mind, I'd just like to start out with you sharing a little bit about your high school experience.
Are you sure we want to go into that? um, so actually, whenever you messaged me about this, I was thinking about it because starting to realize how old I'm getting. Because I graduated in 2005, which somehow is 15 years ago.
Crazy.
How that happened, because I certainly don't feel that old, but I guess I am.
You don't look it, so.
Well, that's the hair dye. So graduated in 05, and I think, it was an interesting path for me in high school because I didn't do anything business related, which is obviously the career I've had my entire life at this point. Most things that I participated in high school were art club related or Spanish club related, one of those kinds of artsy type things is usually what I was participating in. I didn't really do anything business related at all until college. So I think it was quite a different transition once I ended up going to college, which I did go to SIU. Is there other things related to high school you wanted me to get into?
No, I think that's a good transition. So yeah, Chelsie, the way we got to know each other was in consumer ed. You took a summer consumer ed class, and if I remember right, B.W. Bruce came in and spoke, and he talked to our students about solid career choice, like you can't go wrong with accounting. And you and another student, Terrence Yen, who I've been trying to get to interview. So Terrence, if you're watching, you need to return my message. But anyway, you guys were friends and we're both interested in accounting. Couldn't work in your schedule, because things were kind of already set for the senior year and you had other priorities. But you guys started coming in under the premise that we were going to learn accounting, before school, just because. We did a little accounting, not much. We mainly just talked about life, which was awesome. But then, yeah, so then you went to Southern, and then that's when you really learned about accounting.
Yeah, that's when my life really took a turn. Yeah, so after that, I did decide to go to college and major in accounting, which I still regret to this day. So I went there with my major already set and went the full 5 years, including my master's degree. Went there and got my degree in accounting. Once I went to college, I was very involved in all the organizations there that were business related. I did, which all of you young aspiring accounting students or business students, I should say, will find out. But I was very involved in Beta Alpha Psi and Accounting Society, and I actually worked in the accounting department on campus. So I got to work directly with my professors whenever I was there and build really good relationship with them that I still have. And SIU wasn't my first choice, not to plug SIU, but that wasn't my first choice in college, but my experience with my business classes and business placement center and things like that were the best experience I could have asked for. Not that I know any different, but everybody there was very, very helpful in helping you make the right decision for what you wanted to do and make sure you're going to the right place that fit your personality. So I did do the 4-year degree, and then I went and got my master's degree. If you go into accounting, you'll find out you need a certain amount of credit hours to be eligible for your CPA exam. Another whole fun ball of wax, but so that's why I ended up getting my master's, was to get my credit hours for CPA exam. And I ended up leaving with a job offer at one of the big four accounting firms, which you couldn't ask for better. So again, it's like people fret, I think, a lot about colleges, especially right now, talking to a high school group. I think people worry about that a lot, but I can tell you, I went to SIU and I work with the best of the best who went to Ivy League schools. So there's really no difference in my opinion. It's like I'm doing the same job as somebody else who went to a much better school, and we have the same path and we do the same things.
Absolutely. I talked to another student who he kind of tried several different schools and then ended up landing back home at Southern. And I said, don't sleep on SIU School of Accountancy. It is literally top notch. They have like a 99% placement rate for finding jobs for their students. And it's not just like they're like, oh yeah, they got a job. They're good jobs. Most of the accounting students have contracts before they even graduate, so that's something to be said. And I remember you and I messaged back and forth, and you would say like, I don't know why you got me into this. I hate you, blah, blah, blah. I have my
Nothing's changed.
and I just would message back like, you have a job and it's a terrible economy and you already have a job and you haven't even graduated. So shut up. You're doing great. So that is very, very true. So if you weren't sheltering in place right now, by the way, I'm sorry, which firm are you currently with, Chelsie, and like what position do you have? I kind of skipped over that.
Yeah, so I guess some of my work background, I graduated school and then I went to PwC, and I was there probably just 2.5 or 3 years. And then I went to work at an industry job. So I went to work for a company after that, which was MetLife. So I worked in their corporate tax department. I'm in tax. I guess I didn't say that either. So I worked in their corporate tax department. I know, tax. It's terrible. Just do tax returns and nothing else, huh? So I did a lot of things there, and I was there for probably 3.5 or 4 years. And then I kind of felt like my career was getting stagnant in the industry, which it's typical that your progression is a lot more drawn out whenever you're in industry rather than public accounting. But I wanted to get better experience, so I decided to go back to public accounting because I like to punish myself. And so now I'm at EY, and I've been at EY for 3.5 years at this point already somehow.
Yeah.
I'm a manager in the federal tax practice there, and don't see an end in sight currently, but we'll.
So what does a manager in the tax department do, like on a day-to-day? What's a normal day look like for you?
I would depend on the time of year, and it depends. There's a lot of different what they call subservice lines. So I think a lot of people think of tax and they think, oh, you just do 1040s for individuals, and that's all you do. Which I don't even do my own 1040s. So my husband does it. But I think since I work in federal tax myself, I'll go into that. There's other things you can do like state and local tax or international tax or those kinds of things, which I do as well a little bit. But I think my day-to-day is normally, again, depends on the time of year. Of course, I do a lot of tax returns, which at my level, I'm not preparing those. I'm reviewing those and doing a lot of technical review for my clients. A lot of things, especially right now, the changing environment, a lot of things are coming out with this new CARES Act, which I definitely won't go into on this interview. But there's a lot of different things coming out right now with the changing environment that we're having to do a lot of research and background on for that. And then another part of my year, I think, is mostly dedicated to review or auditing, I should say, tax court papers. So not preparing or reviewing our own, but auditing something our client has prepared and sent to us. And that's so like if they're a public company, so they can get their financial statements out the door and things like that. We review the tax side of that to make sure everything looks good. And then I do a lot of research and consulting type work too. It just depends on your clients.
Mm-hmm.
It has a lot of different things going on, and I'm their tax provider, right? So they'll reach out with any questions they have to say, I'm thinking about doing this. What are the tax consequences of that? And so that's where I think things are a lot more interesting than just staring at a tax form and preparing 1040s. So.
Absolutely. And your job is so important because people, I mean, when people are talking about their money, or, if you want to get someone fired up, start talking about taxes, right? And
I hope nobody gets fired up talking about taxes.
they do around here. But yeah, these businesses rely on you, to help them make the legal choices that are correct to keep them out of trouble, obviously, but also to help save them money, to the strategies that they are going to employ can have long-term effects on what they're paying in taxes and what that does to their company's bottom line. And so
right.
I'm sure, especially in light of everything going on right now, you probably almost serve as a counselor for some people when they're calling, trying to figure out what's going on and, know what to do.
Right. Well, and the thing that we see going on a lot right now is obviously a lot of companies are laying people off.
Yeah.
The things we are helping them figure out is helping them determine if they're laying people off or not. So it's a very big deal.
Yeah.
And it's important that we give them the right answers because it's truly affecting people's lives at this point. Not always, that serious.
Well, no, your livelihood, yeah, that you're taking care of your family. Yeah.
Right. Because they'll bring something to us and they'll literally say, what can we do with this? Because if we can't make this work or we can't get money back for whatever is going on for this, then we're going to have to let people go. And it is kind of depressing right now. It's not always that sad, but
yeah.
And they do rely on us, to your point, because usually in public accounting, it's just a flurry of information all the time. So usually we're the first line of defense for them to even know some of the changes that are happening. So it's on me a lot of times to be like, oh, I saw this change, and bring that to my client who it might impact. And, it's nice for us because we get more work potentially, but it's nice for them because they could end up saving money or jobs.
Yeah. And so, yeah, you have to be very proactive, and you're basically like the first line of defense for them almost, or sifting through all that information that would overwhelm someone that hasn't been trained in accounting. They don't even know what they're reading when they get, an IRS notice or IRS puts a new publication out.
Yeah.
So communication skills have to be very important in that you have to take this very technical information that is put out by the Internal Revenue Service or, FASB or something, and then sit down with your client and explain it in a way that, as Michael Scott would say, explain it to me like, I'm a 5-year-old. I don't know if that's the exact line, but so communication skills are important, I would assume.
Oh, yeah. Well, and think about it, because when I'm at the office, I'll have clients just call me randomly, and I have to be ready, at any given notice to take their call and answer their call intelligently and be able to communicate those things with them. I think it also, as with anything, it's knowing your audience. A lot of my clients are former EY alum, so they do know. I mean, some of them may be from like the audit side, some might be from the tax side, you just don't know. Some of them may be, a little more into the details than others, but they're still relying on you to do that communication with them. And I think there's a lot of email communications, and I think with today's environment, obviously with technology, you have to make sure you're being clear and concise in your communications because you never know how people are interpreting what you're saying.
Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah. And yeah, it's easy to just like send an email, like a quick response, but you have to really think through what you're saying before you hit that send button. So yeah, I can't imagine. So as far as skill sets that set someone apart in public accounting, or maybe in particular in the tax area, what are the things that help people advance in your profession?
And as far as going through, I think, well, initially, because I do recruiting as well,
Okay.
I think kind of upfront out of college, what I would say is when you're looking at a resume, everybody, especially accountants, are like myself, are very smart and skilled, and they have a really good looking resume, right? Everybody is kind of the same. So, I mean, obviously you should have a good GPA and things like that, and you should be involved because it helps your resume and it helps you get the communication skills and things that you need. But I think whenever I'm talking to a student, it's more, I'm going to have to work with this person. So, how are we communicating to each other? It's not what's on the paper. It's kind of, how are things between us? Is this somebody I could work with? Is this somebody I could feel like I could rely on? It's more of those soft skills, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
coming out of college. And then I think once you get into the workforce, that never goes away. And your communication is just going to have to get better because, like we said, you're communicating with clients, you're communicating with your team members. Usually, like at my level, I have teams below me and then I have people above me that I have to be able to communicate with. Obviously, you'll need to work on keep growing your technical skills, which there's always trainings and people to help you get better at your job. But I think it's growing technically and growing emotionally to be able to work with your teams.
Yeah, and I try to tell my accounting students, especially right before a test, because I think accounting tests are a little bit ridiculous in that I'd say, you in the profession, you're not going to be locked in a room without any resources and you're told like, put these financial statements together. No, you are going to be working with a team of people. You're going to be able to ask questions. You're going to be able to look at references and resources. So it's not a profession of isolation. I think sometimes people picture accountants like locked away in an office with a 10-key calculator, just, nose to the grindstone, but you work with a lot of teams.
Yes, I pretty much work solely with teams. Because every engagement that I work on, I mean, there's a team of people on it. It's not just me working at something. So
Yeah.
that's why working with others, whether you want to or not, it's something you're going to have to do. So
Absolutely. Now, what about travel in public accounting? Is there a lot of travel, or does it kind of depend on what route you take, or how does that look?
I think it depends. I think I do travel locally, usually, is where I'm at because all my clients are local. So I'll be out at their offices a lot. Usually, out of town travel for me is more for training purposes. So I'll go and do a tax training or something like that in Atlanta or Orlando or something like that.
Mhm.
But as far as tax goes, you're usually going to be in the office most of the time. I think it's on our audit side of things that they're usually out of town a lot more often. There are some tax people who do travel a lot, but again, it's within the region. It's not usually to any kind of exotic places or or overseas unless you're like working on something very specific.
Yeah. So you haven't been to Tahiti.
I haven't been to Tahiti, but I'd like to go, especially right about now.
Yeah, yeah. So you are in the St. Louis area. I don't know if you said that when we were talking earlier or not. I
I
can't.
didn't know.
But yeah, but so you see a lot of clients in the metro area in St. Louis. Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yep.
Well, my last big question here for you is just advice that you would give to juniors and seniors at Marion High School if you came to speak to my class, or if you could travel back and talk to Chelsie Romines, 16-year-old with the Incubus t-shirt, you know, hanging out at Marion High School. What would you want her to know?
That's a tough question. I think the biggest advice I could give would be two things, really. I think it would be don't be afraid to change your path if you get to a place and you're like, hey, I really don't think this is for me. You can change at any time. I know people I've worked with for several years have been like, hey, this just isn't for me. I think I'm going to go back and be a teacher, which good for them. And they do, and they're much more happy doing those things. So there's, you know, if you make a decision as a junior, senior going into accounting, which I don't recommend, you can always change. There's no reason you can't, and no one will hold that against you.
But you haven't changed. You're
I
still.
haven't. You know, that's a lot of effort. That's a whole lot of effort. I'm too far gone now. So I think that's definitely something that people should keep in mind is, you know, follow what you think is right for you. And then we keep talking about communication, but I can't stress how important that is. So the earlier you can be comfortable talking to people and getting along with different groups, people are going to have a lot different viewpoints than you. I mean, you hear this all the time, but you don't really know it until you actually get into the real world. But you're going to have to work with people you don't know, and you're going to be in situations where you don't know what to do, and you're going to have to rely on people to get you across the finish line. So whatever you can do to get comfortable and be confident and asking questions, I would say don't hesitate.
Absolutely. Well, very, very good advice. It was so good to talk to you today, Chelsie. I really appreciate you taking time to do this. And I know my students are going to enjoy you and your sense of humor as much as I do. I look forward to being able to get you in my classroom again. It's been a while since I've been able to do that, but I look forward to that. And thank you again so much.
No problem.